Hello everyone, welcome back to Godfrey Mumbi Academy. So this is part 2 now. We are continuing with digestion. So with me here, this is the question that they brought in 2014. So this is 2014 biology. So the question says, Figure 2.0 shows the movement of dissolved substances in the digestive system and some associated parts. Okay, so this figure is showing the movement of what? Dissolved substances in the digestive system. So when you look at it, we have this part, the ileum, of which we understand that the ileum is part of the small intestine. Then we have the tissue, okay? Then this side we have the bloodstream. Now, the first question says, name the structures labeled I and J. So they want us to name I, what is I, and also what is J. So let's take a look at what is happening. So this is our I, this triangle here. Then this is our J, this shape here. So now when you look at the figure, you will see that here, this I has substance K. It is converting substance K into what? Into glycogen. Because the arrow is showing that K has been converted into glycogen. Then this glycogen is taken into the bloodstream and converted into glucose. Okay? Then this glucose is converted from the bloodstream to structure J. When it comes to structure J, again the arrow is showing that from J, it is the glucose is converted into lactic acid. So from here now, the lactic acid is taken into the bloodstream, where now it is converted back to glycogen rather, by this same I. So just by looking at this, you will be able to tell that the only part which converts glycogen into glucose and also converts lactic acid back to glycogen is the liver, because this is being done by the what? By the liver, specifically the liver cells. Okay, so because of that, because the liver cells converts glycogen to glucose and lactic acid to glycogen, we can say I is the what? Is the liver. So I is the liver. So liver, that's our I. Then for J, we understand that when glucose is in J, it gets converted into lactic acid. Well, we know that this only happens during anaerobic respiration, and this happens in the muscles, okay, or in the muscle tissue. So J must be the what? The muscle tissue, and this happens when there is no enough oxygen. So J has to be the what? The muscles, because it is in the muscles where under anaerobic respiration, glucose gets converted into lactic acid. So we will say J is what? Is the muscle tissue. Muscle tissue. Then when we come to B, it says name one product of digestion in the ileum which is not transported by blood. So in the ileum here, we understand that glucose is transported by the blood. Now, what other product of digestion is not transported by blood? Okay, so the product which is in ileum and it does not get which is produced in ileum and it is not transported by blood is what? Is the fatty acids. So the fatty acids are transported through the lymphatic system. Okay, they are not transported through the blood. So here we can say the what? The fatty acids. Fatty acids. Yeah. So the fatty acids. That's for B1. B2, name the enzyme in the ileum whose activity produces glucose. So in the ileum here, one enzyme whose activity produces this glucose here. So we understand that maltase is one of the enzymes. The function of maltase is to convert maltose into glucose. So maltase does that work. Then for C, it says substance K, when broken down, produces a waste substance and glycogen. So we have K, this K here. When it gets broken down, it produces glycogen and the waste substance. Two things, the waste substance and what? Glycogen. And here we've been shown only the glycogen. So it says identify substance K. So we need to understand where this is happening from. And we understand that I is the liver. So the liver is converting K into glycogen and the waste substance. What could be that one? So, well, if you look at the digestion of proteins, you will understand that this K has to be amino acids, or rather just proteins, but specifically amino acids, because we understand that amino acids, when they are in excess, they are taken to the liver, which is I. Then the liver gets the amino acids and breaks them down. So that process is called deamination. Deamination of amino acid is the breaking down of these amino acids. So that is being done by the liver. When it breaks amino acid, it releases two products. Firstly, we've been told that it releases glycogen. Of course, it releases the carbon skeleton, which later gets converted into this glycogen. Then the other product is ammonia. So it releases ammonia, and ammonia later on is converted into urea. Okay, actually urine rather. So it gets converted into urine. So this urine is the one which is being said here that there is a waste substance, because it says it produces a waste substance. So that waste substance is urine. And how does urine get formed? Urine is formed from ammonia, okay, after deamination. So here, identify substance K. K is amino acids. Amino acids. Then suggest two uses of substance K in the body. So what are the uses of amino acids? So there are so many uses. We understand that they are used for growth of body tissues. For growth of body tissues. Then number two, they are used for to repair damaged body tissues. Of course, they are also used to make hormones, they are used to make enzymes, they are used to make antibodies. There are so many uses, but they just want two. So these are enough. Then the last question says, under what conditions the product in structure J is produced? So this is J, and I've already mentioned it to say J, it is the muscle tissue. It is converting glucose to lactic acid. This only occurs when oxygen is not sufficient, when there is insufficient supply of oxygen, and that is under anaerobic respiration. So we say it is produced when there is insufficient. So you say when there is insufficient supply of oxygen. Yeah. Or you simply say when oxygen is not enough. So that is it for this question. Let's look at the next question. So the next question, this diagram came in 2010, and they brought it again in the previous video that we made. Similar, they brought the similar one. So it says figure 2 shows a human digestive system. So this is a human digestive system. It says from figure 2.1, select the letter where egestion occurs. So firstly, they want us to select a letter where egestion occurs. So you need to understand what is egestion. So we have ingestion and egestion. So these are two different terms. Ingestion is the intake of food through the what? The mouth. When you are taking in food, that's ingestion. Now here they are asking egestion, which is the opposite. The taking out, the passing out of fecal matters. That is what? Egestion. So egestion, where does it occur? Of course you understand that it is what? X, because that's where the fecal matters gets passed out from. So this is where it occurs. Egestion occurs letter X. Then B, A2, pancreatic juice is formed. Pancreatic juice, just the name itself is suggesting that pancreatic juice is formed in the pancreas. No wonder the name pancreatic. So pancreatic juice is formed in the pancreas. And the pancreas looks like a what? Like a leaf. So you just come here, you see that this is the one, which is V. Then here, select the letter where villi or villi are present. So where villi are present. So we understand that the villi, the main function of the villi is to increase the rate of absorption. And they are actually found in the small intestines. Okay, so you come here, then you look where you see where the small intestines are located. So it's here, and this is W. So this is it for this one. Then B says the stomach produces hydrochloric acid. So we have the stomach here, it produces hydrochloric acid. Then state two functions of this acid in the stomach. What is the function of hydrochloric acid? So it has so many functions. Number one, it activates the enzymes. So you said to activate the enzymes. That's the first function. Like renin, pepsin, and all those enzymes, they get activated by this acid, hydrochloric. The second function is to kill bacteria. Just like that. The third function is to give the stomach the acidic pH. Yeah, because we understand that the pH in the stomach is acidic, and that is achieved through the what? The production of hydrochloric acid. Then for C, describe the roles of the liver in number one, digestion. The roles of the liver in digestion. So then number two, they want the roles of the liver in assimilation. So in digestion, the first and the main role of the liver, you say the liver produces bile. Okay, the liver produces bile. This bile is, and it is the one which is now used in the digestion process. So firstly, you say in digestion, the liver produces bile. Then you tell them bile contains bile salts, which are used in emulsification of fats. So in emulsification of what? Of fats. So you understand that emulsification of fats is the breaking down of fats. So when you explain like this, this is enough. So the liver produces bile. Then that's the first point. This bile contains bile salts, which now is used in the emulsification of what? Of fats. Then the role of the liver in assimilation. Okay, assimilation, the usage of the end products of digestion. So you understand that the liver converts excess glucose into what? Into glycogen. So you tell them, you say it converts excess glucose into glycogen. It also converts glycogen back to glucose, the opposite of this. So all those are the functions of the what? Of the liver. So this is it for this question. We come to this question now. So the question says, figure 3 shows part of the alimentary canal of a human being. So this is part of the alimentary canal. And it says, A, identify the parts labeled P and Q. So we have P and we have Q. So when you look at P, you see that P is coming and it is connecting to part Q. Part Q, we understand that this is the stomach. Okay, this is the stomach. So this tube is connecting to the stomach, and the tube which connects to the stomach is the esophagus. Just like the previous question. See, they've indicated that this is the esophagus. So the esophagus comes all this, it comes all this long until it connects to the what? To the stomach. So more like they just took this same part. Now these parts which were named, they removed the names. So this is the stomach and this is the what? The esophagus. So for P, it is the esophagus. Esophagus. Then for Q, it is the stomach. Then B says, explain the functions of the part labeled R in digestion. R. What is R? It is looking like a leaf. What did we say? This is pancreas. Yeah. So this is pancreas. So they want us to explain the functions of pancreas in digestion. So number 1, it is used in the production of digestive enzymes. So production of digestive enzymes. So now here you explain to say, under the production of digestive enzymes, the pancreas produces enzymes like the pancreatic amylase, like you just say amylase. So the pancreatic amylase, it is used to convert starch to what? To maltose, and that is being produced by the what? By the part labeled R, which is the pancreas. So that's the first function, production of digestive enzymes. Then the second function, so we say 2. The second function of the part labeled R, which is the pancreas, it is the secretion of bicarbonates. So it secretes bicarbonate. Now this bicarbonate, we understand when just by looking at the diagram here, you see that this is the stomach, right? And it's ending somewhere here. Then we have the small intestines starting from here, going this way. So you understand that where the pancreas is connected, it opens into the what? The small intestine here. The pH for the small intestine is alkaline. Yeah, the pH is alkaline this side. But the pH in the stomach is what? Is acidic. And we understand that the acidic chyme, that food, after it gets digested, it gets passed on to the what? To the small intestine. Now, here it is acidic because it has the what? It has the hydrochloric acid in it. And it is coming to this environment, to the small intestines, which has the pH of, which has the alkaline pH. So how is this acidic chyme going to be neutralized because this environment it is coming in is not acidic. So that's the function of this what? Bicarbonate. The bicarbonate gets secreted and released into the what? The small intestine, so that it neutralizes the what? This acidic chyme which is coming. So when the food comes, it is acidic. When it reaches this side, it gets neutralized by the what? By the bicarbonate, which is released by part R. I hope you understand that one. Then the last one is regulation of what? Blood sugar. Regulation of blood sugar. Yeah, blood sugar. So you understand that the pancreas produces two hormones. It produces insulin, it also produces glucagon to ensure that the blood glucose level is constant. For example, when the glucose level is high, it releases insulin to lower it. Then when the opposite is the case, that is when the glucose level is low, it releases what? Glycogen, so that it converts it maintains the what? The blood glucose level. So these are the two hormones that are released: insulin when the glucose level is high, and glucagon when the glucose level is low. So this is being done by the what? By the pancreas. So this has 3 marks, meaning you need to provide 3 points. Then we go to the next question. It says, state 2 functions of the part labeled S. So 2 functions of the part labeled S. This is our S. So when you look at S, this is the liver, right? Yeah, this is the liver. So 2 functions of the liver. So the first function, you understand that this question is same as the one we answered, the first question we answered, this one, because this question, no, not this one, the previous one, this question they asked to explain or describe the roles of the what? Of the liver, and they gave it 4 marks in digestion and in assimilation. So these are the same functions. We understand that it firstly what? It is used in the production of bile. Then you explain that this bile contains bile salts. Bile salts are used to emulsify fats. Then the second function, it converts excess glucose into what? Into glycogen. So you say conversion of excess glucose to glycogen. Then the last one says, describe 2 effects of the common ailments of the part labeled S to the human body. So the liver, 2 effects of the common ailments. So number 1, we have inflammation. It starts increasing in the size abnormally. Then even constipation and also cirrhosis. So constipation, difficulties in passing out of fecal matters. Then we have cirrhosis, the hardening of the liver. It gets hardened, and that is cirrhosis. So these are some of the what? Of the effects. So this is it for part 2. Don't forget to do what? To subscribe.